talking about the motor skills from 3 years to 7 years age, can you suggest us some exact what will be the right age wherein if a child wants to get into a sports career, what will be the age to get into some specific sport?
So the typical path we see, and it actually works for all categories, okay, one for high performance athletes, should ideally go through the same path. It's for health reasons, for everyone else who wants to do sports for fun. And it's also the most child appropriate path. And what is typical after the stage of motor skill development, age 3 to 7 roughly, the next phase is sport sampling. So children start to try different sports, see which sports they like or they have suitability for, depending on their body. But ideally not just one sport. Ideally they do at least 2 sports at that age. Typically goes from 3 to 10. And also, like, our philosophy after a lot of research is you never want to specialize in any sport before 10. We recommend 12 years old. So often they sample many sports between 7 to 10, and at 12, around age 12, they choose a sport if they like to do more training in that, they like to compete. And after that, age 13 to 15, they get into like structured training to really excel in that sport. That's a typical path we see for all the 3 categories. Okay, so it's not just high athletes, which is a very small part of the population. For everyone else, it's ideal to keep playing sports, be healthy and have fun.
What Dominic said, I completely agree with that. And parents who want to raise their kids in sports also, what they need to keep in mind is, I see some parents trying to push their kids from a very young age. To make a player, they think if they start at 3 and 4 years old. Sometimes they have misconception like the 10,000 hours rule, where if my child practices 10,000 hours by the age of like 15, 16, he'll become a professional athlete. But by doing that, what is happening is the child will lose his childhood, and without exposing to all these motor skills, and if you do that for over a period of time, by the time he comes to 8 or 9, he gets burned out because of so much practice he does every day. And a lot of injuries can happen by using one side of the body if you are trying to play a certain sport which uses one side of the body. That could also be a reason. What you need to understand is, to play any sport, the motor skill is the foundation. That's the foundation. Like, let's take an example, like let's take like this. If every sport is played under water, like let's take cricket, let's take soccer, let's take hockey, anything. If every sport is played under water, what do we teach them first? We teach them how to swim first, then we teach the skills, right? We'll teach the skills of kicking, we teach the skills of catching, throwing, striking, all these things. So it's the same thing. In motor skills, first we need to teach them the movement first, then we teach them, then you teach the sports skills. That is the key here. When we do motor skills, right, we do around 150 to 200 games in a yearly curriculum. And you think how many, each game challenges the kid, how much he need to think in decision making wise, problem solving wise. Every game challenges them. But if you specialize and play only one sport, you are just playing that sport. So you need to specialize, do all these motor skills. All these skills will help him grow his body and even his cognitive development, and it will help them enjoy the sport very easily with seamlessly with this movement and all.
Yeah, I think, and also like the key, as you said, the key factor is you take away the fun from sports for children if you focus too early.
Right.
And it's a very short-term focus, so
Right.
initially they might excel with other children,
Right.
but you never get to their optimal potential because they have no foundation. And once they grow up and other children with a better foundation learn the same skills, they will outrun them easily and quite quickly. So it's one is you burn them out easily, or
Right.
much more likely.
Right.
Injury is a
Right.
problem, fun is a problem,
Right.
and the most important, I think, is optimal potential.
Right.
So you never get their optimal potential if they have no foundation.
Right. And I also see in India what happens is, because you started early, like 3 or 4 years old, and if you're doing only one thing for over the years, the expectation is so high. That because you're spending so much of your time taking your kid to practices every day, and if your kid misses one day of practice, you feel like he's not interested, I am sacrificing so much. You feel all that. And again, the kid is so young and you are spending so much money where his brain is not mature enough to understand all the technicality of the sport first. At a young age, you should not spend so much money on this structured thing. You do a lot of motor skills at the initial age, and you should spend the right money at the right time. Like at 10, if you think your kid is mature enough now, he has developed all these things. Now, if you say how to hit a 4 and how to take a racket back, it becomes so easy. You should spend the money at the right time. I see parents using the money at the wrong time from 3 to 6 years for different sports which are very highly expensive. Specialized one-on-one trainings, it's very expensive. And by the time he comes to the main time where you need to pick it up, then you're already burned out of your cash. I've seen many of cases like that in India.
Yeah, I think it's, and also I think on top of that, it's less likely that a child actually finds their perfect match for sport.
Right.
This is called it's called functional matching,
Right.
which means that depending on your body type and kind of your genetic talents,
Right.
you actually choose the right sport you like.
Right.
And if you do it early, it's difficult for children to know that early because
In which sport is good at.
yeah, and also because they might grow slower than other children, so they're not as talented at that age like other children who grow faster.
Right.
And their mind, as you said, is not as mature to choose
Right.
the right thing. So it's important not to be too specific too early.
Right. And even I see like some of the top athletes like Stephen Curry, LeBron James in basketball. Stephen Curry plays golf really well. And he plays basketball. And his parents used to always do like in a yearly program, like first 4 months they do some kind of a sport like a baseball. Next 4 months they do a different kind of a sport. And next 4 months. So they understand that because they came from a sports background. Even with LeBron James, before he got into the college, he did lot of he did lot of American football. Then later he got into the basketball. And if you take in cricket, MS Dhoni has played lot of soccer and lot of other sport. Then he later moved into cricket. And if you take of AB de Villiers, we call him the Mr. 360. He played 6-7 sports and he picked cricket. So with that, all the skills he developed in other sports, he uses all that shots whichever around the wicket he plays. We get amazed how does he do that. That's because of the multi-sport which he did in different sports, and that is helping him play the sport which he's picked at the last.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe to sum it up, it's one key thing is sampling a lot of different sports, playing a lot of different sports. The younger, the less sport specific it should be. It still should be versatile. So get children through a lot of different movement experiences. Once they start sampling sport, don't just do one sport. Have them sample a lot of sport. Play 2 sports simultaneously. And maybe the last piece is like, think about this phase of development children go through in physical education. They're not starting at playing golf at 3. That's not age appropriate, and it's not the right path. Ideally, you build a foundation which is motor development, age 3 to 7. You start sampling different sports. You specialize in one sport, and then you do more specific training in that sport. That's usually a typical path. It's the most successful path in the long run.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Dominic. Thanks a lot, Srikhar, for the information and the valuable time which you gave us. Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. I hope you find it useful, and if you do want to know more about it, or if you want to get certified as a coach and work in schools, I highly encourage you to join one of the It's Playtime workshops here in Hyderabad or in other places in India.
Yeah, if you feel the information is very valuable, please share and comment so that other people can get benefited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.